welcome everybody to episode 219 of Look Out Sir, the Warhammer podcast, made, produced, developed and delivered to you by us, Dan and Phil. How you doing, Phil? Life treating you well?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Yeah? Living the dream? Enjoying your jury duty?
Yeah, it's coming along. So far, I haven't done anything. Just a lot of waiting around.
You're lost in the bureaucracy of the law, the never-ending, what do they call it, due process, I suppose.
I guess so, yeah.
What happens, though? Are you just stuck there for, the 2 weeks, or is there a chance that you could end up in, like, a O.J. Simpson trial and be there for the rest of your life?
I mean, potentially, but I can refuse that, and I'll have to, because I'm going to no retreat in 2 weeks' time. So I didn't leave much gap between the allocated 2 weeks I have to serve versus actually going off and enjoying myself and doing something else.
Well, absolutely.
So if there's a long one, I get to refuse.
There you are. Well, I'm glad that the machinations, the mechanisms, the processes that are our judiciary system bend to Phil's need to go to Gibraltar and play small toy soldiers.
Well, exactly. I mean, it has to after the amount of work I've put in making a new unit.
Well, that's it. I still never had to do jury service at this point. I've managed to dodge it all my life somehow.
Count yourself lucky.
Well, I did. I remember my brother, when he turned like 19 or something, like a sort of a year into adultdom, got pinned with it like really early doors. Like,
that is,
which is pretty amazing. But anyway, look, we're not going to be talking about that in episode 219. We are, in fact, going to be talking about what, Phil?
We are having a general overview of the state of Warhammer. All things Warhammer, not just Warhammer 40k. A little bit of dabblings here and there. We're talking about the balanced data slate for 40k, the new miniature reveals for 40k, and whatever else we think is fun and frolicking to add in.
Indeed. The Hellsmiths of Hushut and all of their gloriness, as well as 10 years of AOS and Blood Bowl and all that stuff. It all just gets covered in a smoosh-boosh of talking points that is the general state of Warhammer right now. And again, just to say, because we would like you to be aware that we will not be putting out episode 220 next week. As was kind of stated a couple of months ago when me and Phil kind of switched things up. The idea is that we get together and record every Wednesday, unless we can't. And we can't next week because Phil's, serving His Majesty the King, and I am on holiday. So basically, long story short, is we're not around next week. But we'll be back week commencing or sometime early October with episode 220. So if you're an avid fan who loves the fact that we've been putting these out weekly, apologies, but you won't have to wait too long. Unless, of course, myself or Phil find ourselves, dead between now and then. Which I hope we won't, Phil. So far so good, right?
Let's hope not. But, Halloween is coming, so we can always do a, resurrection of some kind, maybe.
Well, that's it. Tis the witching hour.
Yeah.
It's all pumpkin spice now. I was in Starbucks today and was overwhelmed by the sheer amount of pumpkin-based paraphernalia. I was very tempted to pick up some of their fancy mugs, but didn't do so once I saw how much they cost. My God.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. But anyway, what we got to talk about? Yeah, so we're doing all that stuff. Additionally, obviously, thank you so much to everyone out there who's supporting us on Patreon. If you would like to join our patrons, we'd massively appreciate it if you consider doing so, because it enables me and Phil to continue doing this, because, costs and stuff and life and things. But ultimately, just listening, supporting, engaging is certainly adequate, if not fantastic, to be completely honest.
Like and share. It is a pyramid scheme. If you get your friends to listen and they get their friends to listen and their friends get their friends to listen. The classic Ponzi scheme. Come on, everyone, make it happen.
It's the cascading effect of fun. And then, get involved. But thank you to our patrons. You're amazing. There is merchandise, which is linked below. And there is, of course, a 5-star review, which we are going to go to right now. Transitional noise. This week week's 5-star review, Phil, has come via audible.com. That's right, Phil. Audible of the Americas. We do well, Phil, in the Americas.
Did someone have to reach out to tell you that we did it, or did you find it on...
I sorted out. The good thing is that we so rarely get Audible reviews that it was quite easy to locate and find when I went on there. Our UK Audible is still at 13 ratings, which is, not dramatically high, but certainly not bad by any stretch of the imagination. What I've discovered is that in order to actually leave us a review via Audible, I think you have to listen to like 15 hours of it.
Committed.
Yeah, absolutely. But, this is the thing. We've got a new one by an individual by the name of Amazon Customer. So I'm not sure if that's just the generic boilerplate that Amazon gives to their customers, or that is what they've chosen to
someone has
call
a
themselves.
wicked sense of humour.
Absolutely. There's a band that I enjoy listening to at the moment called Die Spitz, and they just put out an album called Something to Consume, and I was like, brilliant, top quality name. But yes, enjoyable Warhammer podcast via Amazon Customer, 5 stars, and they've also rated us, Phil, 5 stars for our performance, and of course 5 stars for our story, because that's the fun thing about Audible. Absolutely. So
we tell a good
5 stars
story
across the board. We do. We weave a fine tale. And if you would like to be like Amazon Customer and leave us a 5-star review, you need only do so in places where 5-star reviews can be left. You can give us 5 stars on Spotify, but you can't say anything when you're doing it, although you can leave comments in Spotify now, so why not do that? That'll be lovely. Additionally, you can obviously leave comments in our YouTube, but again, that isn't a 5-star review thing, but we do encourage people to give comments. I try my very best to come back to people on YouTube, although I will admit I've been embroiled in all sorts of personal dramas and dilemmas the last couple of weeks, so I've not had much of an opportunity to prioritize getting back to people, but I will endeavor to do better at that going forwards. But yeah, please engage. It helps us out massively, because ultimately, this is a algorithmically orchestrated pyramid scheme, as Phil has already asserted. And what the robot overlords love to see is engagement. That's what really gets them fired up. So let them know that Lookout Sir is something worth supporting, and like, share, subscribe, 5 stars, etc. No more of that from here on in, unless Phil wants to reiterate.
Just, we've got books to buy.
We do have books to buy. We have
technically only one left. No, just one left.
One, and then the inevitable End Times event that will come around the corner. But it's getting towards the end of the year, Phil. We're going to have to resubscribe to everything again and find hundreds of pounds to spend on, various services.
Yes, the podcast making service machine that we use. Yeah. That is true.
That's it. To be fair, though, this one's a lot more affordable than the last one we were on, and much better. Let's be honest.
That's true. It's not crashing all the time.
Yeah. Really, what we need to do is buy Phil a new PC, because he's running on a Mac laptop from back when it was still called a Macintosh, basically.
When it was made of wood and powered by mice. Yes.
Absolutely. His is a Power Mac from the 90s. That's what it is there. He's basically putting all this on a zip disk and sending it in the post.
Exactly. You can't see, but underneath the table I'm pedaling away, which is generating the electricity to run this operation.
Whatever happened to the zip disk format, that was one of the great innovations of old Apple back in the day, wasn't it?
I think so. There was also the Sony disc as well. That was quite a cool one.
Oh, those were like the Discman things, wasn't it? I
think something like that. Yeah,
I got one of
different
those.
Formats.
I got one of those when I started university, because my, my dyslexic brain, they were like, oh, we'll give you a Discman thing that you can record the lectures on and all the rest of it. It was kind of cool, I suppose. I just liked the colourfulness of the discs. That was my nice. Little tactile little thing that I enjoyed. But not as much, Phil, as I enjoy Amazon Customers' 5-star review, which reads, enjoyable Warhammer podcast, 5 stars. Feels exactly like sitting and listening to 2 friends talking about a favourite hobby. As someone who has spent time playing AOS, 40k, and Necromunda, I have enjoyed the shift from being mostly 40k focused to being a general Warhammer hobby podcast. Phil and Dan seem like fun guys to roll some dice with, and are definitely worth giving a listen. 5 stars, as I say. Thank you very much, Amazon customer. You're a delightful human being, and I really appreciate your very well-crafted and beautiful review. And to elaborate on that in yet more detail, it is, of course, Phil.
Dear Amazon customer, this is not a Prime delivery, but it is going direct to you. Thank you very much for your kind words. We are glad you're enjoying the show. The shift in format, clearly tailored just for you, because most people are probably just 40k players, right? And maybe they hate us for changing the format, but you clearly like it. Is clearly an excuse for me to talk more about Necromunda, because I'm really enjoying that at the moment. Yet to get Dan onto the bandwagon, so to speak. And if you ever were to roll dice against us, as you so lovingly said, you would hate it, because I'm super salty and Dan cheats. So there we go.
It's true. It's true. But at least you sort of know what you're getting into. You know, we're not precious about it. We don't hide it. We're very open about our terrible ways.
That is true. But Dan is super charming at the same time. That's why he always gets those favourite game votes.
That's it. People don't mind it when you're cheating if you do it with a smile and a little tickle. If you give them a little caress across the nether region. That always does you some good.
Fair.
There you go. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you specifically, Amazon customer. And let's get on with episode 219 of Look Out Sir, Transitional Noise. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. In this part of the podcast, me and Phil are going to be talking about various topics, all within the broad spectrum that is the Warhammer hobby. Isn't that right, Phil?
We are. We're going to run the gauntlet and cover everything that's happened.
And there has been a lot of things going on lately. They've been, overwhelmed by leaks causing them all sorts of communication issues. They obviously right now were hoping to, do a fun promotional cycle as they talked about new Codex Dracari and the impending release of new Imperial Knights. And then obviously as well within the wondrous mortal realms, we have the Hell Smiths of Hashut and everything that they're bringing to the table. The Chorfs, they're coming around the corner also. So, there's plenty of things coming out at the moment, but obviously the internet is never content, and a whole heap of stuff has been happening and leaking and announcing alongside it. We've got new Warhammer Plus minis, we've got new Celebration minis, we've got new Ultramarines. It's a wild time in terms of everything that's happening around Warhammer right now, isn't it, Phil?
Well, exactly, yes. And also, the other thing that came out accidentally was the balanced data slate came out like a week early, because as they had eloquently put it in today's article, which was their designer's commentary, maybe someone just pressed a button a bit too soon. So we're assuming that is actually what it was.
That is the problem with buttons. They're so easily pressed, aren't they?
Well, they are. And everyone loves to press a button.
Absolutely. It's why anything important shouldn't probably be at the end of a button. It needs to be at the end of a tedious process of checks and balances.
Yes, yeah. You got to ask a 5-page questionnaire.
Absolutely, and then maybe the only way that the thing could be sent is if someone walked through an elaborate tunnel of traps and challenges that could cause them all sorts of misgivings if they weren't careful enough.
Well, exactly, and then send off the final okay for someone to push a button that isn't you.
No buttons are pressed. No buttons there. Maybe no singular button. It's a series of elaborate buttons.
A series of very boring buttons, not fun ones, really boring buttons.
Yeah, absolutely. Done in a very particular sequence, in a very particular cadence. such is the way. But yeah, I mean, on the topic of the balanced data slate, did you have any particular notes as it concerns that? I mean, again, we're not really the forebearers for competitive Warhammer 40,000 content anymore, but maybe you have an opinion on something that was going on with that.
Well, my Custody / Thunder Warriors army that I'm taking to No Retreat went down a whole 30 points. So potentially I could have squeezed in an extra enhancement. But they've said no. Apparently all the lists are locked in, despite the points adjustment. So we're sort of effectively playing pre-adjustments. In a way, it was sort of remarkably underwhelming with sort of how little that they'd done, especially to the main game. The designers' commentary that they put out today talked about all the individual armies. So some have actually had like quite big changes. Like they've done some buffs like Belisarius cool. They made him better. So characters that weren't performing pretty well sort of got better. I think the one big takeaway was for tournaments, the challenger mechanic is not being used whatsoever. They've said we don't need it. Which is interesting because obviously that's what it was designed for. But it seems like at that level of play, they said it's not needed, which is interesting.
What that is, in my opinion, is that competitive Warhammer 40,000 players don't like things that, you know, upset their very particular balance.
Well, they're like,
they don't like
I'm winning
mechanics.
and I want to win, and I don't like it when someone, uses a challenger mechanic to beat me in the end. I mean, potentially that is true, and that does that is understandable because ultimately you want to win because you're the best general. You don't want someone to have a leg up to win. That doesn't seem particularly fair. Those mechanics should really be designed to keep someone in the game a little bit longer. You know, turn 1, turn 2, it should be a helping hand to keep it still a little bit balanced. But yeah.
I personally think that a reasonable compromise would have been to use the challenger mechanic, but maybe remove the stratagem element of it. Not stratagem element, sorry, the victory point element of it. Because I think that's the thing that is most egregious, is the fact that people can accomplish a really straightforward mission that rewards them with free points. And free points aren't that big necessarily, but the swings in 40k, certainly in the later turns as well, can be quite massive, and it does feel like sometimes those extra few points do make a big difference. So I do understand why the competitive scene are not in favour of it, although I personally don't really agree or understand entirely, but I can sympathise with that perspective. I think that's the thing when it comes to competitive 40k, and in a way I actually think it's a real shame that competitive 40k has done away with the challenges, but I also think it's a shame that they never endorsed or engaged with the twists either. Like competitive 40k already were like, well, we don't do twists in competitive and we don't do challenges, we just want the most sterile, boring, predictable gameplay experience that you can give us. You know, please, for God's sakes, don't try and make this fun. You know, it seems like it's the sort of the attitude of the competitive scene. To be honest, I'm not even really joking when I say that. It does really feel that way at the moment. Like they're a joyless people. The current crop of Warhammer 40,000 competitive players, it seems.
I mean, maybe, yeah. I think, for me, this is a topic that we've worn to death, so I won't labour the point. But basically, the fact that the only terrain seems to be L-shaped ruins across the whole game system and the whole tournament format, at least in 8th edition, you had, there were ruins, but you also had woods, you had barricades, you had crates, and you also had pipelines and stuff like that. You had craters, you had like a variety of stuff to make your table look interesting, but they've basically gone, the only way to balance the game is to just not be shot at all for a certain number of turns, and the only way to facilitate that is with massive line of sight blocking terrain, which doesn't, it just makes me cry on the inside.
It is, though, also a question of convenience when it comes to, tournament organisers, event organisers. Obviously, we've got the London Grand Tournament coming up around the corner. And, you know, when you look at an operation of that scale, having that kind of simplicity of everything is just a ruin and everything's very uniform and everything's quite cost effective is definitely helpful to those kind of businesses, because ultimately, you know, it's really a lot easier to produce the kind of quantities of terrain that you need when all it is a few, you know, relatively flimsy bits of MDF. You know?
I completely agree with you. However, the entire game state should not be designed around that. That should be a marginal exception to the core rules in terms of how the average person plays the game. I've said it many times. A tournament format should be its own thing. Not as it should be its own game, but it should be delineated as this is the tournament format and this is the general play format that everyone else is using. But I think even if you did that, I sort of worry that everyone will just default to tournament play, because everyone
they do
likes the idea that even if they're not going to tournaments, probably their buddies down their local club, some of them are, and they're the ones either pushing it, or everyone has the aspiration to do tournament play. At least, you know, in that last deck, you know, they had the asymmetrical missions in and stuff like that. And I think that's great. We're seeing more of that sort of thing in the game.
The actual deck and the actual full construct of it is really great. Like, really great. The asymmetric missions, the incursion missions, the twists, the challenge mechanic. Love it all. It's a real shame that, in a way, people just want to embrace, as I say, a very kind of sterile version of the game. But, you know, that's what people like now. And I'm not going to yuck people's yum. At the end of the day, if you love it for what it is and you want it to be what it is currently, then good for you, you know? I mean, obviously, you are seemingly in the majority. But for me, I just think it's that thing where it's like, I think the game is better when you introduce those kind of additional elements. Although, to be fair to it, 40k is a bit of a random game, though, through the way that you draw the cards, right? Like, there's all these possible outcomes in terms of the cards you get. And it does feel sometimes like the game is kind of, there is, like, still, I suppose, a luck element to it. But it feels, but it feels more like I don't know, it's an interesting vibe for sure. But yeah, it's interesting they got rid of Challenger for competitive play. Because, yeah, I personally thought it was quite a fun idea, but yeah, it is what it is. I mean, for me, when it comes to balanced data slate, I feel like there have been some really interesting changes on the whole within it. I think the changes to the Sanguinary Guard for Blood Angels made sense. I think increasing the output of their weapons, as well as increasing their weapon skill from a 3+ to hit roll to a 2+ to hit roll is a meaningful benefit. Although it does create a bit of a weird situation with Dante, because Dante's innate benefit is giving +1 to hit to the Sanguinary Guard unit. But now they're hitting on 2s natively, so they don't need Dante. But then at the same time, you know, Dante only really kind of adds a benefit when you're in a situation where your opponent is able to reduce your to hit rolls in some way, which does happen a lot with Death Guard, to be fair. But yeah, it's a weird thing. But it's nice that Sangard are definitely a little bit more punchy now. Their Spear's weapon profile has seen a noticeable improvement, going up to 4 attacks, obviously hitting on 2s, and then having the Lance ability. So, you know, looking all right for the Blood Angels in that respect. And then I suppose the only other thing I'd mention is the fact that the Lion has gotten better again, because obviously the Lion was made better in the last balanced data slate, and then they were like, you know what, he's not quite cooked enough. We need to put him back in the oven again. So now he has, like Gilliman, the ability to use 2 of his Primarch powers, which is pretty gnarly when you consider what he was bringing to the table. So yeah, the Lion is no joke right now, I'd say.
And they did an interesting mechanic for Fulgrim. They gave him like a serpentine ability, which was basically he's allowed to move over ruins or objects that are 4 inches or less.
Yeah, except for the fact that most people, again, given what this is here to kind of accommodate the competitive scene, most of your terrain is not 4 inches or less in height.
I assume it might be 5.
Yeah, well, if you're using official GW terrain, it's about 5 or 6 inches tall. So if you're playing at official GW events like the World Championships of Warhammer, you're going over there, all of the terrain will be more than 4 inches high. So I don't really understand why they didn't just go, tell you what, you could just move through ruins, or just give him the...
Well, I thought they would have given him some kind of sliver option to fit through tiny holes, rather than just move over them. But, you know, he's a big old guy. I think, in a way, maybe... Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's almost like he practically needs to be on a smaller base, but because of the size of the model, it probably wouldn't look right on a smaller one. Although it'd be interesting to know if they could downscale the base and it to still fit. But it feels like that's not a consideration that they even remotely think about when they're designing those models in terms of how this stuff moves around on the tabletop and what is a practical base size, especially the big round ones, because the oval ones aren't so bad. Like, but you just say a knight is technically bigger, I would assume, in terms of size, but its base is smaller because it's oval, so it's in a bit so it can sneak through stuff. Whereas, but although saying that, my personal preference is round bases all the way. Oval bases, I'm not a huge fan of.
No, I don't disagree with you. I think personally I share that same sentiment. But I think, when it comes to Fulgrim specifically, I think, it's just a weird one that they decided to put him on such a large base, because it does really hinder his ability. Because it's not even the fact now that he can move through things. There's still, like, various alleyways or kind of concourses, if you will, areas of which you can walk where his base is just too big. So the physical act of actually fitting him in spaces is broadly impossible. And again, having seen the miniature and seeing that on his base, there is an obvious, bit of space between where the tail, the serpent's tail, kind of ends and the base continues on. So they're definitely giving him a bigger base almost unnecessarily so. But I think that's the thing, isn't it? Right. And again, it's another interesting kind of conundrum in terms of how GW communicate up and down the business, where decisions are made by artists, designers, creatives that have knock-on effects on gameplay, but designers, studio team members, rules writers don't necessarily feel, to me, like they get the opportunity to input on that, or they themselves are not completely across what the kind of current competitive layouts are for, say, the ETC or the KTC or whatever the heck it is. And so they're like, they probably didn't even realize it was a problem. And I dare say they didn't probably think that... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, well, I was going to say, they are playing in one of two places, in a specially dedicated studio space, which probably has some nice terrain, or they're playing down at Warhammer World with the public. And there's some really nice terrain there. There's obviously some custom boards, and then there's some sort of the more standard stuff. But those standard tables, by default, don't have so much terrain on it you can easily make out the tournament style terrain to test stuff on. Obviously, if they're doing like brand new super top secret stuff, they wouldn't be doing it down there. But I got the general impression that, they're having a much more sort of relaxed, casual time when they historically were playing and playtesting the game prior to, probably even like 9th edition. I imagine 8th they were still all casual gamers, right? And it was only after that when people realised, oh no, you want to gear towards tournament players, you need to either outsource this or try it yourself a bit more.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting part of all of it, isn't it? It's like, ultimately, it feels like their team is evolving and their philosophy is evolving to meet the needs of their kind of hardcore community of players, which is completely expected, but it takes time, right? And I think 10th edition has been a little bit of a nightmare, I feel, for them in terms of how it's been developed, what they've done. And I think at the moment they're just kind of doing the best they can to just kind of keep the wheels turning on it. And again, though, they're in this really interesting spot, aren't they? Because as much as obviously as well that they are doing what they can to kind of keep the lights on or keep this, thing on a certain level of like live support in terms of like the rule set and keeping it going. I think, at the same time, people are loving it, which is great, right? Like, I think that's the thing. I think it's great that people love it. I just sort of struggle with it myself personally, as I've said before. It's funny. I was playing Age of Sigmar last night, down at the club, and I was talking to a guy called James, who's a lovely fella, and he's a big 40k nerd. He loves 40k, and we were next to each other playing. He was waiting for his opponent to turn up, who was delayed by trains or whatever. I think Trump is in town round here at the moment, so the whole thing's gone a bit crazy.
Oh, right, yeah.
But anyway, long story short is that, he was talking to me, and he was sort of like interested in AOS because we were playing it, and I was like, the one major difference I've sort of identified between AOS and 40k from having played a bunch of it over the last couple of years has been when I turn up to play AOS, I have to look at what my opponent has and figure out what I'm going to do about it. When I turn up to a game of 40k, I've already worked out what I'm doing, and I hope my opponent hasn't got a way of stopping me. It's more like, it's like my opponent is like an inconvenience that I will, navigate around while I'm fulfilling the various actions and things that I need to score points. Whereas in Age of Sigmar, I do really actually have to work out what I'm going to do about them because, it feels more like they're a fighting force that needs to be subdued as opposed to a bunch of nuisances that are getting in the way of me scoring points,
That's fair. Yeah.
But, yeah. Anyway, yeah, look, otherwise, in terms of the balanced data slate, it's all sorts of okay, I think. Again, the World Eaters have had a nice buff to Exalted 8-bound, which is great because the Exalted 8-bound have been pretty useless up to this point. Otherwise, yeah, there's nothing really of note worth talking about outside of those Blood Angel changes, the Lion, obviously the funny stuff with Fulgrim, Dracaria, much of a muchness because obviously we've seen that Dracaria have had a new book announced, so, who cares on that front? Knights and Chaos Knights have had a few little bits kind of mixed in, but again, obviously New Knights is coming out on the weekend. Although I suppose that's interesting, isn't it? And we have had this happen before, but it looks like the new Imperial Knights have had some nerfs before the book has even come to market. So
because it was quite good, I guess.
That's what I hear from the people playtesting. I know Joe and Liam did a game on stream, and the Knights were pretty impressive from the outset. So they've had a few little tweaks to them. So they've got I think there was an ability where you could target like 3 Imperial Knights, and they've already FAQ'd it down to 1 Imperial Knight now. So it's like oh yeah, whoopsie. Let's fix that. So, interesting that the Imperial Knights are already being nerfed before they've even officially seen play, which is great. I know, mate. I know it's a great thing. But so your custodians now are what? How many points less were they against?
30. So I had 2 custodian guard units of 4. They dropped down 10 points each, and then the generic shield captain went down by 10 as well. Noting that none of the Forge World stuff ever gets touched, even though they specifically called out the units getting the price drop because no one was taking them. And it's like, I don't think anyone's really taking the Forge World stuff, and you never really update those in line. But it is what it is. That's it'll be interesting to see where they go next year. Will my curse strike me once more and be invalidated? And it will just be Games Workshop only plastic models allowed.
100% yes. That is coming, and it is. You secretly you want it bad.
Not really, but it will be a good excuse to be like, well, this is mostly a heresy army. I guess I'm playing that now. I've heard good things. I'll get on that bandwagon. You like
to be punished. That's what it is, you see.
I know. So it started all the way back when I was a kid, when I started collecting squats. My first ever 40k army. This curse goes back a long way, everyone.
There you go. I worked out the other day, not to kind of give away any kind of political leanings, but I realised that nothing I've ever voted for in a voting sense. Every time I've been called up to vote, I've gone and had a vote. I've never ever won anything. Not a single thing I've wanted has ever happened.
That's quite often for me as well.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like, I was like, I feel pretty downtrodden right now. It's like nothing ever goes my way. But anyway, there we go. Cool. Well, look, I mean, yeah, look, obviously, Balanced Data Slate is interesting. I think, obviously there's going to be some interesting impacts to people who are actively, playing on a regular basis, collecting, building, painting, playing 40k armies on the regular. Like yourself, Phil, you're going to see a little bit of a points discrepancy. For someone like me who just kind of casually flutters from army to army, the points never feel that consequential to me, right? Like, I mean, when the Lion and Roberto Gilliman went up a bit in points, I felt like that was a pretty meaningful increase where I was like, oh, okay, because they were quite significantly more expensive once they'd received some like buffs and stuff. But outside of that, I've never really massively noticed, but I'm not that much in the weeds anymore when it comes to the 40k-ness of it.
No, it does always feel quite minor. It's like maybe you'll be able to squeeze in an extra very cheap units, or you're losing potentially a unit. Like, I think when they go up, that's when it hits you harder more than feeling the bonus of a points drop. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, it's always a bit of a muchness. Doesn't really affect you that much, I don't think.
No, well, that's it. But again, for the people who are really in the weeds, I understand why it is that these things can and do make a big difference. Because I'm not immune to that reality, but I'm definitely not in it right now in terms of really noticing those differences. But yeah. Anyway, otherwise, I suppose talking about other news and fun and things, Warhammer Plus put out some new minis for their, Warhammer Plus subscriptions. Yet again, Phil, I am remaining to be a Warhammer Plus subscriber because I keep forgetting to cancel it. But truth be told, that Eldari Spirit Seer mini was pretty much worth the price of admission. And I will say this as well, Phil. I've been watching some of the Warhammer Plus kind of talk show features, and I've actually been entertained by some of the stuff they've been doing on the old Warhammer Plus of late. So
that's good. I keep meaning to give them a watch, and I've just not really gotten around to it. I think I've seen a couple of episodes of How We Roll, which, to be honest, feels like the most exciting sort of behind-the-scenes chat with developers. That's the sort of thing I would like to see. I mean, a lot of them are just like, oh yeah, we're gonna just a bunch of people randomly from the studio, it seems, and we're going to build some miniatures and chat and paint or something. And it's like, or we're doing a challenge. And most of those don't personally entertain me, although they are along the lines of the ideas for Warhammer Plus we had many years ago when we were like, do a cooking show, but make it 40k. Like, just do these really random novel concepts, which we came up with a bunch of. And it feels like they're leaning more into that. And it's like, that's good. And unfortunately, it feels like that's now the mainstay of Warhammer Plus, and the animations, which was originally its driving force, seems to fall by the wayside. And it's like every year they announce one new animation at the start of the year along with the mini. So there's a new Age of Sigmar one, and that's really exciting. And but they're nowhere near as consistent as they were like year one. They at least did like one animation video a month or something, whereas now you'll at best get one series a year, and it'll be like 3 or 4 episodes, it seems. Maybe they're doing 2. I think this last year they did the it wasn't called Nightfall, it was something like that, the one with the Warlord Titans fighting each other. Oh, it was Kill Lupercal.
Horus Must Die. Oh,
yeah, Kill Lupercal. Yeah. That was actually quite good.
Yeah, I thought that was good, yeah.
It felt like there was a sort of slightly actiony episode, a talky, filler episode, which was actually quite interesting. And then the last one was like too much action. It was just a bit nonsensical, but it was still interesting.
I felt like the problem is with that show was that it massively dependent upon your ability, or rather your understanding of the heresy or the events of the Siege of Terror as portrayed in the latest series of novels, because there's a lot of sort of stuff about the reality bending and the duplicitiveness and the madness of
right,
of
yeah.
those events.
I mean, I've obviously not read any of the Siege of Terror books, so maybe that was lost on me. I think the most weird bit about it is they were meant to be sort of fighting on Terror, and it was awfully quiet. They're basically going, it's this one lone warlord titan just going through loads of rubble, and eventually they might stumble across something, and then the only things they ever seemed to fight were basically other warlord titans. It's like, have you not made another model for like a Reaver or anything else you can animate, like some knights? It was basically warlord titans, and that was it, versus maybe some marines and I think
a shadow sword.
A shadow sword, yeah.
There was a shadow sword, which never really got shown in any excruciating detail. It was always sort of hidden amongst the rubble.
Also, that always feels like a bit of a weird retcon, because I don't think, and I could be wrong, I don't think Space Marines can take them anymore. They are relegated to sort of like the Legends lists, and because they now have things like Fellblades and stuff, they have their own specific super heavies. But that I thought was an interesting choice. But Heresy 1, that was like par for the course, because they didn't have anything else back in those days until they did. Obviously, overall, I thought that one was quite good. But I mean, I can't think of the other animation they did this year or this for the last year.
Well, this time around, they've just done their new Age of Sigmar one, haven't they? That's one that they're kind of hyping up. So Sigmar's Toll is the one that they're trying to plug, which seems ridiculous because it feels like an animation that follows directly on from the Vermintide, not the Vermintide, the Scaventide, the events of the the box set, basically, and the animation style is remarkably similar, if not exactly the same, as the CG animation that was done to promote the release of that box set, right? So basically, you've got an animation that's very akin to the 3rd edition launch trailer, but it's much more kind of subdued in the way that it's kind of presented. But
you mean 4th edition?
4th edition, sorry, yes. The current edition is 4th edition. My apologies.
Yeah, that's right. I was just realising, I think Black Talon Season 2, which I haven't watched, also came out in the last year. Okay. The Tithes, maybe that also... No, that's just a trailer. Oh, no, that did come out, because that was... The Tithes, did that come out? Because that had the female custodies, but I feel like that was this last year. So
yeah, this year or last. Yeah, it was. It's not been. It's in sometime in the last 12 months.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3 at best that I can think of. 3 animations this last year, as in 12 months, let's say.
Yeah, it's a pretty pitiful offering, but you basically look at it from the perspective of they genuinely try and do some fun kind of behind the scenes content. I genuinely really enjoyed. They did I forget what the actual show was called, but it was like a challenge show where members of the...
Is that the Scrap Demon one?
No, not the Scrap Demon. It was the one where they had to paint a 1,000-point Age of Sigmar army in a week for an event. So they all basically had to like paint Age of Sigmar 1,000-point armies in a week to go
possibly
to a
painting
a
desk. I'm just having a look through them now.
Possibly. It was the series that had them also going and doing like the VR Space Marine game and stuff. It's like more of their, they did the escape room on it as well. It's more the we went and did stuff with our partners type of vibe.
Okay. Interesting.
But nonetheless, mate, I mean, when you look at like the quality of some of the minis they're offering you within Warhammer Plus right now, and then you also think about like, some of that other content.
I use the apps. So it's sort of, to me, it's sort of worth it just for that, because they are pretty good. And we're also living in a world where Battle Scribe isn't really supported anymore, or it's supported very tentatively and not very well. So that's no longer like a real viable choice. A new recruit is iffy to use at best. Like, I've tried it a few times, and it takes me ages to work out how to do stuff. So it's not as user friendly as the 40k and AOS apps. And I use both because we play both game systems. So that alone does make it sort of more worthwhile than it had been for previous years, where the apps weren't as good and the alternatives were better. And the minis are good. Yeah, the Elder one, I think, is a slam dunk. That's phenomenal. I have obviously no need for that. I do sort of have a undead army, so I might pick up the Necromancer, even though I've already been making my own Necromancer model. I like the fact it's on a bigger base, though, than the current one. In fact, the actual Necromancer himself, I don't like the sort of weird pose. He's a bit too manic for me, but I love
I love it.
I love the base, like the three skeletons sort of coming out the ground. They're very cool. Whereas the Necromancer himself just isn't really doing it for me. He's
Richard O'Brien, isn't he?
Oh God, he is. I was actually going to say he was. Oh God, what's the singer's name? He's basically any sort of drug-addled rock star, right? That's got that skinny body look to them. It could be.
Oh God. Why have I forgotten his name? I am the passenger, and I ride and I ride. That guy. Why is his name gone from my head?
Oh, I can't remember him either.
Iggy Pop. There we go.
That's exactly who I was thinking of. You, right?
Yeah. I assumed.
Yeah, he's got that vibe for sure.
Well, I think that's the thing. Well, if you actually look at a picture of Richard O'Brien, though, he's totally Richard O'Brien.
The head, definitely. Yeah, that is. Yeah, I do get that. He's like, "Come with me through the crystal maze.
Come with me because Mummy, exactly. Oh, Mummy's here."
He's even got his little stick that he holds. Yeah.
Oh, mate, I tell you, if they'd given him not an accordion, why am I forgetting the name?
No, it wasn't
a harmonica.
A harmonica. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, if they'd given him a harmonica, I would have been like, "This is perfect," But no, the bass is stunning. And then, and the theme is quite interesting as well for this year's one, because they've obviously gone with this kind of, this sort of resurrection, these apothecaries, these, crafters of death, as it were.
Yes, a death theme,
the spirits here as well. Yeah, so the spirits here is obviously the Eldari kind of warlock psyker class that guides, the wraith constructs, and these are obviously the souls of Eldaris reanimating these war constructs, and then you got the necromancer raising his skeleton. So very similar themes, but I mean, obviously,
and they've done sort of big diorama bases as well.
Yeah, it's really nice. I think I went with the spirits here, but I'm very tempted to pick up the necromancer.
Have you ordered yours already?
Awesome. I have ordered mine already. Yep.
I think I'm probably like a month behind, so I think I'll be doing it next month, maybe.
Oh, I haven't. So I've chosen the miniature that I want, but I have to, because they make you do like a full first month before you're able to place the order.
So you've not actually ordered it, but
Not ordered. I've just clicked the which one I'm going for.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, I would say the Wraith series is the better of the two, personally, but I have no use for him. So.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, possibly has some meaningful resale value in 10 years' time. Assuming people care about this hobby still by then, You never know. You never know. But no, I mean, look, I'm the whole Warhammer Plus. I don't know. I've become a lot softer on it as the years have gone on. I still think it's a pretty pitiful service in some regards. And I think ultimately, I still don't understand why they don't just give you all the rules in the app as part of your subscription. That would be. Here's the thing: they would be much better off making that the subscription. And I think honestly, for me, the reason why I'm no longer annoyed at Warhammer Plus is because they are no longer misrepresenting what it is. Before, when the first year or two, they heavily advertised it as it's an animation hub
you're going to get so many animations a year or every week or whatever, and they just didn't live up to that whatsoever. They promised us the Astartes 2, which still hasn't come like 4 years later.
Next year, though, they say. Next year.
Next year, yeah, great. Like a little bit too late, but whatever. That's why I was always annoyed about it, is because they gave us these false promises. They said there'd be perks for going to Warhammer World or Warhammer official events, which they at best only did something when you reminded them when on the day that this was a thing you had to do, and then they did it. And then eventually they just stopped doing it, and they then stopped advertising that that's what they were doing. So yeah, it's like I've grown to like it because I've lowered my expectations. I still think they would be much better off putting out all the animations for free on YouTube. You 100%. Would massively grow your audience in the same way that Space Marine 2 grows your audience, in the same way that Secret Level Space Marine animation no doubt brought more people into the hobby. It's cool. You've got like an extra, probably, I think it's like 100, 200, 250 grand that they make out of Warhammer Plus, based on the.
Did you get that on an earnings call or something?
No, but like, because they do say it, I think, in the breakdowns. I don't know if that was the last one or the previous one, or maybe that's the number of subscribers. I can't remember. But it's like, I don't think the amount that they generate off of their customers is going to offset what they've ultimately lost by not bringing new people into the hobby. That's how I feel about it. But for them, this is a monetary, like, you can put this on a spreadsheet. You can't claim to have so many new members, gamers joining the hobby, because it's so intangible. It's not a metric you can easily, follow or justify in any way. So, but to me, that feels like the no-brainer thing to do. Just put this stuff out for free, make the subscription cost slightly less, but make it unlock everything in the app. Like that's, and just make it app-based is what I would personally do. But then they've got to justify all the money that they spend on the animations and stuff, because they're not getting money from that directly.
Yeah, so according to a quick Google search, which has given me an AI overview, they haven't specifically spoken about Warhammer Plus for a while, but when they last did, they stated that they had 115,000 subscribers, and it generated £3 million in revenue.
Okay, so I mean that's quite a lot. So
I mean, that's gross revenue, though, right? Like, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of costs and things that are going to come and chip away at that.
But personally, it's
and when
like,
you consider,
if you got that many customers, because what did you say it was? What was the actual figure of number of subscribers?
115K.
So, do you think all of those YouTube videos over the last 4 years could generate 150,000 new customers? Possibly.
I think they could probably generate more, but
and think how much each person would spend more than an annual subscription of Warhammer Plus.
No, I agree with you. I think this is the thing. I think they could probably keep the price the same, continue to charge 50 quid for it, but just make it that all the apps give you all the rules.
Because not having
and the miniature.
Yes, and the miniature. There's a thing that the miniature has always been the thing that has made it palatable. Year one, year two, when you felt like you were getting swindled, to put it frank, the miniature always made you feel like, well, it's the same price as the miniature. But guess what? All of those miniatures that I bought so far, the Assassin, the Inquisitor, I think maybe, and then I skipped a year at least, so I think maybe it's those two.
Yeah.
Still in boxes, not use them whatsoever.
No, same here. I used the...
Because you got the Orc boy, didn't you, the Orc?
Yeah, so I did get the Iron Jaws Mega Boss. I have used him, although I didn't actually use the one I got. I just, a mate of mine, Tom, gave me is, I think, if I remember correctly. So I ended up just adding that. Maybe it was anyway, whoever it was, I added it to my collection that way. So I've still got one in the box and then one that I actually use in games. But yeah, anyway, Warhammer Plus, it's not so bad these days, but I think that's more the ongoing impact of apathy as opposed to anything, and I'd be amazed to see what their actual viewership was on like individual videos. If to suggest they have 115,000 subscribers, how many of those how many views is a video game?
Not even half of them watch the actual animations, let alone any of the other videos. If it's anything like me, it's basically the animations I really enjoy, so I'll watch them. So I'll at some point go back and watch Black Talon Season 2, because Season 1 was actually really good. I'll probably listen to some Lore Master videos, but I'll just dip into the ones I think are interesting. And maybe I'll occasionally watch one of the Heavy Metal Masterclass videos if I'm painting something and want to learn a specific technique. A lot of them I just won't put on in the background. I'll do that if it's a YouTube video, but for those, I feel like with Warhammer Plus, because it's in its own ecosystem, I've got to go out of my way and find it. And quite often it's like, I've just got a bunch of YouTube videos to watch for the day while I'm painting or something. So yeah, the Warhammer Plus, like you say, the random challenge stuff doesn't appeal to me to just have on in the background when I'm painting. Even though that I should probably give them a watch, to be fair, and it's just remembering that I've got access to it. And things like the Vault was a great idea initially, which was where they're picking up all their old White Dwarf and even relatively current White Dwarf they were doing, up until basically conveniently I pointed out that you didn't need to subscribe to White Dwarf, because if you waited like 3 months you were getting all of the stuff digitally, and then they seemed to stop doing that, which is, I'm sure it was a coincidence. I'm sure no one was listening. They used to put on loads of really cool stuff like the old Imperial Armor books from Forge World. That was really good, but it was disappointing that they for some reason cut out all the actual rules and they just kept it as the lore parts of the books. So that was a great concept, but I don't think they've added to it in years, and I genuinely wonder if it's still there as a thing.
The Vault?
Yeah,
I'm just on it right now. You reminded me it existed. I'm just looking at it right now. So the last issue of White Dwarf they've added to it was issue 498. Which I'm not sure what number we're on right now, but yeah.
Let's see if I can quickly find. I don't think it's that.
No. You don't think what the last issue was 498? I know it was, but they definitely
no. The last one was 516.
There you go. So you're a couple of years behind the times.
Yeah. I did think they would stop it at some point, which is. Yeah, a bit of a shame. Again, a great idea, but clearly whoever was doing it stopped or left the company and people have just forgotten all about it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know when that upload happened. I mean, I'm not following it adamantly, but my guess is that they haven't stopped uploading. Well,
they used to add to it and advertise what they were adding to the Vault every week, and they did that pretty consistently for the first year or two of Warhammer Plus. But then eventually,
they're not doing that currently.
No, well, because they still advertise what's going on in terms of like the shows and stuff and the battle reports, but I haven't for a very long time ever seen them advertise Warhammer Vault in any capacity.
Fair. I'm trying to see if there was anything about it, but I can't really see it, and I'm not going to go out of my way to look for it. But yeah, anyway. But the website is still live. I'm looking at an issue of White Dwarf from 2005, celebrating 30 years of Games Workshop.
So someone on Reddit a year ago said, I'm looking at Warhammer Vault, it really interests me. And someone said they haven't updated it since October.
Amazing.
And that was a year ago. So yeah, that could have been up to 2 years in theory.
Well, that's it. Someone lost the keys to the Vault. It's it's sealed up now. No one may enter once again. Although you can look at what's there, but nothing's being added, which is what it is. But so anyway, Warhammer Plus is what it is. New minis on that front. Obviously, as well, we've had new Warhammer Day miniatures as well. Or not Warhammer Day. Are they Warhammer Day or are they store anniversary? Warhammer Day.
It was Warhammer Day, I think.
Yeah, so they're dipping into the coolest of GWIP. We have a Space Marine captain and a warrior of Chaos Warrior Lord. Is it a Lord? It must be a Lord, or is it just a aspiring champion of some degree? But either way, Chaos Warrior.
There's a Dark Warden, exalted hero.
Exalted hero, fair. So we have an exalted hero of the Warriors of Chaos, or rather the Slaves to Darkness. And then we also have the captain with a jump pack. And, Phil, interestingly, a Thunderhammer and Storm Shield. The first, I believe, ever official captain miniature ever sold that actually has that combination of weapons.
Did the multi-part one not have that as an option?
Which of the multi-part ones are you talking about, Phil?
The most recent multi-part jump captain.
No, it has Power Fist, Chain Sword, and Power Sword. And no shield.
Because am I right in thinking that they stopped doing the combo of the classic Smash Captain, which was Storm Shield and Thunderhammer?
Well,
and that wasn't available in the rules.
Intriguingly, the combination of Thunderhammer and Storm Shield has been available in the rules all the time. It's like a weird anomaly. It's almost like GW4 that, that was a kit that was available. Maybe, just maybe, when they were looking at which type of captain with jump back they were going to release, maybe the rules team thought that they were putting this guy out, and then all of a sudden they realised, oh wait, no, they're releasing the other one that we thought was going to be a limited edition.
Well, what's interesting is this one specifically says... Well, this one specifically isn't a limited edition one.
Well, it's a Warhammer Day one, isn't it?
Yes, but it says, note that this miniature is not limited to Warhammer Day.
What?
He will join the standard Space Marine range. So there will be 2 Space Marine jump pack captains eventually.
Wow.
And I've heard some rumours saying that he is styled to look like Vanguard vets to fit in with a future Vanguard vet range.
Well, blow me down with a feather. That is exciting news that I obviously missed. But yeah, unless I'm mistaken, Phil, the first and only time they've ever done Thunderhammer Storm Shield on any captain. I don't think a Thunderhammer Storm Shield has featured on any captain outside of Terminator armor. So you search your mind.
No, I could imagine.
We've had captains with Thunderhammers and we've had captains with shields, but we've never had the two combined. There was an old Chapter Master mini that had a power axe and a shield, and there was a Chapter Master mini that had a Thunderhammer, but he doesn't have the shield. You remember those old Council of Chapter Master things they used to have? They had the geezer with like the scroll and the whatever it was.
Yeah. The masters of the fleet and all of that jazz that they had. Yeah. And I was trying to think of even Forge World ones, but even, for example, Moloch from Minotaurs, he had a spear and a shield. So not quite Thunderhammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite likely.
Yeah.
I can't say I'm overly keen on the design of the shield itself.
Oh, I've lost you. Where have you gone?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah, sorry. I don't know what's going on there. Say that again.
Yes. I'm not overly keen on the design of the shield.
And do you don't like the shield?
It just seems a bit dinky and small.
Yeah, it's more of a buckler, more of a kind of combat-specific, a combat shield, if you will, to use old things.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
It would be a bit mad for a guy with a jump pack to be carrying around a flipping, slab.
A huge one.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be madness if he had like one of those Bulgren-esque slab shields or something. I mean, it would look cool, but
Well, that, yeah, might be a bit too much, but I don't know. It's more, I think, like the weird design, because it's trying to look like almost like a sort of Terminator cross, right? But not quite, because it's got a little dip at the bottom.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Just I don't know. Seems a bit odd, but I appreciate that is very similar to the classic design, but those shields have never done it for me personally.
No.
Give me a nice round shield every day.
And the Warrior of Chaos, the classic Slaves to Darkness Exalted Hero mini is pretty cool as well, though. To be fair, I like that a bunch. That's a cool sculpt, you know.
He's got a face only his mother would love.
Well, that's it.
He does give me slight Slambo vibes with his kind of classic horns and sort of general beefiness. Obviously, the pose isn't the same when he's armed with different stuff, but he's just got that sort of old school classic Chaos Warrior Hero Quest vibe, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I do know what you mean, to be fair. I think Slambo, when they did, the original Slambo mini, certainly. I think when they did a celebratory Slambo mini a couple of years back, or like probably now like 10 years ago. But when they did that had a bit of a different kind of vibe to it. But I really liked that old Slambo mini. I'm a big fan of it. I think, I keep thinking about doing Slaves to Darkness just so as I can have an excuse to put that Slambo mini down on the tabletop, you know?
Ooh, yeah, I mean, that is a good excuse.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And not content with giving us a new Space Marine captain, although chronologically speaking, the captain with Jump Pack got announced after this. We also have been gifted, Phil, with yet more Space Marines, specifically the Ultramarines, which is pretty mad.
I know, specifically new stuff to replace not very old stuff. So we've got
I'm starting to believe more and more, by the way, Phil, that intercessors are going the way of the dodo. I think this is a clear indication that we are moving into the... Oh, you remember all that stuff we put out in 8th edition? Gone, Hellblasters.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, dear. Here's the thing. I think the other minus Kargar sculpt was good. Not great. It was very solid. But I think the Victrix Honor Guard were junk, personally. And these new ones are a lot better.
Agreed.
Do you know, here's my hot take tinfoil hat theory. And actually, I'm just wish listing. I want both to exist. I want you to have 2 data sheets. You can have minus Kargar in Terminator armor or in Primaris armor, which is ironically what you had when he first dropped, because the old mini was still available. So actually, at one point, you got 2 data sheets, because in theory, both options should be valid. He's just wearing different armor.
I believe there was
and
one
I think
point,
that'd be really cool.
I genuinely think at one point he had 3 options, you know. I think he had the new Gravis, the old Terminator, and the old Artificer armor at one point. In 8th edition, I think it was possible.
Because I wouldn't be surprised if the Artificer was like Legacy, like Index or something that's still valid.
Yeah.
But yeah, this new mini, really cool. I really like it. It's, great that we're getting cool Terminator kind of characters, and it is harking back to his coolest sculpt, which was him in Terminator armor. So basically, all but one of his original sculpts of the 3 that they have done, they have redone. So my joke that I put up in the WhatsApp chat was, if they redo him again, he will have to be sitting on a toilet.
That's fair.
Because that is his original sitting down sculpt is the only one that they've not redone.
Yeah, because his Artificer armor pose was similar to the Gravis armor pose, where he has one arm up in the air, I suppose. Although
yes, that's the one that they've redone with the last Primaris version.
Yeah.
That was the nod to that.
Yeah.
And then the one after that one was the Terminator one, which is what they've given us now, basically.
I still can't get over the fact that the face sculpt makes him look like Pat Butcher, though. I just can't. It cannot unsee it. he is Pat Butcher through and through. Like, it's uncanny. He's got the same hair. He's got the same kind of nose and grimace. Like,
it looks like he's got earrings.
Well, that's the other thing. He's got the Pat Butcher earrings.
I think that's meant to be like the weird sort of, half helmet thing which doesn't. Does that work for Terminator armor? But you know how most Space Marines' ears don't have ears. They've got the weird thing, like the disc thing over their ears. It feels like it's that, and it's just not very well lit, so it looks like an earring.
Look, I mean, for anyone out there who doesn't know who Pat Butcher is, which will be for many of our,
non-UK listeners.
Yeah, so Pat Butcher...
Or maybe even UK listeners of a young generation.
Well, that's it. So Pat Butcher is a, popular character from the long-going TV series here in the United Kingdom called EastEnders. And EastEnders is a drama about life in the East End of London, where a bunch of people scream at each other. It's famous for having absolutely absurd Christmas episodes where, you and the family get together on Christmas Day and, all delight in the...
But your pub's been burning down or something.
Yeah, that was always the best bit of EastEnders, was always the Christmas Day episode where they literally create, like, some of the most horrendous acts. Like, it was always someone gets murdered, someone gets blown up, something gets burned down. It was always hilarious the way they did it. On the day of, joy and goodwill to all men and all the rest of it, go and watch EastEnders and enjoy a bit of misery. But Pat Butcher was this really famous character who was in the show. I don't know if the actress who played her is still with us, but regardless, Pat Butcher is one of those characters that's kind of woven into the cultural zeitgeist.
She's so iconic. There is a Pat Butcher themed bar you can go to in London.
Is there? Why have we never been? We should go with this new Marnie's Calgar mini and do a little side-by-side.
Go look.
Pat Butcher has been iconically recreated. I mean, here's the thing. I genuinely, if I was working in the studio team and someone put this sculpture in front of me, I'd be like, I love it, but we can't put it out because it's Pat Butcher. But maybe it didn't become apparent until they put paint on it. Maybe once you gave him the grey hair and the pale skin and the earring, it all came together.
I think it's sort of like the deep recess sort of, the deep recesses on his face gives it that vibe. I don't quite see it in the same way you do.
How can you not see Pat Butcher regardless in that? That is Pat Butcher's face.
I'm willing to just suspend my disbelief and not think about it too much, because I think overall I'm just busy looking at the armour, which is cool.
The armour is cool.
What annoys me more is if you look at his tactical rock, which is a column. It's like a Roman column. But then one of them has got like this weird, like, kind of cutout in the sort of the trim, if that makes sense. And that doesn't look at all naturally weathered. Like, that's not how surely stone works.
But that's where Pat's foot needed to go. And what Pat wants, Pat gets.
I mean, maybe. Yeah.
There you go. She would have yelled at the stone, worn it down with the abrasiveness of her language. Oh, you're Frank, blah, 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 blah. You're Grant, such and such. Genuinely.
Quite likely.
We'll put that out as some social engagement. Do you agree with me that Marnie's Calgar is now Pat Butcher? Because it's
fair. We can do a vote.
Absolutely. Well, let's put it on the old Instagram. Is Marnie's Calgar just Pat Butcher in Terminator armor? And to be fair, I couldn't think of anyone better to lead the Ultramarines for generations than Pat Butcher. An angry, genetically modified Pat Butcher Astartes would definitely do some damage. I mean, you saw the mayhem she brought upon the square. So, imagine what she could do in Terminator armor to the universe. True.
That is quite scary.
Anyway, but yeah, look, Pat Butcher's looking cool, so well done her. And then we've also got Kato Sicarius, or whatever his name is. Is it Kato Sicarius? No, yeah, it is Sicarius. Old Sicarius. Yes, Kato Sicarius. It says it right there. Who is now captain of the Victrix Honor Guard, which kind of feels like a demotion to me.
What was he before?
I thought he was captain of the first company.
I mean,
or is he second company?
Oh, I don't know, because surely what is the captain of a Victrix Honor Guard? Because surely the Victrix Honor Guard is like 3 guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Or is that a term for the first company?
Oh, so he was captain of the second company. Sorry, because I guess Calgar would... Is Calgar a captain, or is there a captain of the first company and then Calgar is the chapter master?
Chapter master, yeah, there should be a different... I would have thought there would be a different captain.
Who is the Ultramarine captain of the first company? The answer is Severus Agaman. Never even heard of him, but there you go.
Yeah, it hasn't got a model.
Well,
probably.
I mean, how wild is that there's an Ultramarine out there without a model? Crazy, but...
I know, yeah. I mean, this guy's quite cool looking. That he's the most un-Primaris looking model ever. So your theory that they're, maybe gonna...
Oh, it's done, mate.
Firstborn, some units could happen. The one thing I don't like, this is my one criticism, is he's got some weird ribbing on his legs.
Yeah.
Which I think is meant to hark back to Mark II Crusade armor. But it just sort of doesn't work because of that was layered armor, whereas this is more like just trim. And it's curved upwards, I assume, because it's meant to form like an ultramarine symbol. It just looks odd. And maybe it's just the angle. I don't know. But that is the one bit that sort of I don't like. The rest is cool. His helmet's cool. His, wrestling belt is cool. His back banner, beautiful. Yep. Chef's kiss. I love a back banner on Primaris. I was there before it was official, because I kit bashed them myself. So yeah, great to see that sort of stuff. But yeah, he's a cool mini. What do you think of him? Yeah,
I love him. I think he's great. I just think it's weird that they've... and maybe it's a promotion. Maybe being captain of the Victrix Honor Guard is now...
I mean, that's quite an honour. You're basically the chief elite bodyguard to the Primarch, I would assume.
The Primarch and Calgar and yeah. So
yeah, I think that would be quite an honour.
I think so. It's a step up, I suppose, then. But yeah, the new Victrix Honor Guard minis are really, really stunning. Like, I've always adored that aesthetic when they first introduced it back in... Crikey, I want to say it was like early 2000s. Like, I feel like it was like 4th edition because it was when Calgar got his old Terminator model. They released it alongside this Specialist Honor Guard unit, which was part of the kit with Calgar. So you got Calgar and Terminator armor, and he was accompanied by the Honor Guard, as they were called at the time. So he had like an Ancient and a Champion, and then a couple of Honor Guard, I believe. And they accompanied Calgar, and they had this really cool helmet aesthetic that you're seeing here. And then in Heresy, they also did a really awesome unit that basically adopted the same kind of visual, but they had shields and axes in Heresy. Whereas what we're seeing here now is that they've essentially got bolt guns and axes. So they're exercising true grit, to reference an old school 40k rule, because they're using bolt guns as one-handed weapons, and then using them in combat with the addition of a power axe, which is super cool to see.
Yeah. What would be interesting, because what's interesting is they've got 3 Honor Guard minis that are all dual kits. So one of them can become the Ancient with the jumbo-sized banner. One of them can become the Champion, and then actually one just stays as the Victrix Honor Guard. So it'll be interesting is, can you take them in just a squad of 3 and you swap out 2? Or could you take them as a squad of 6, so you have 4 Honor Guard plus the 2 characters, basically? That would be interesting, because actually they're all so cool. If I was an Ultramarine player, I would want to buy this kit twice to get all the different options.
100%.
Basically.
100%. And I think, again, it'd be interesting to see how they do it, because when they've done it with Ravenwing Black Knights, the Ravenwing Black Knight kit can create Ravenwing Black Knights or a Ravenwing Black Knight command squad. But in the case of the Black Knight command squad, you've got the Ancient, the Champion, and the Apothecary. So you've got 3 characters, whereas in this case, you got 2 characters and 1 generic champion, or 1 generic Victrix Honor Guard, who is posed slightly different to the alternative version of the sculpt. So you can see with the guy on the right, his bolt gun is pointing forwards, whereas the alternative version of him has the bolt gun sort of slung in a little bit more, kind of less pointing forwards and more just kind of...
You sure? I think they've just rotated the mini around, and he doesn't have an alternative pose whatsoever. So that one is the duplicate in my mind.
I think there is. I mean, there's a couple of little differences. Oh no, yes, you're right. No, you're right. I'm looking at the wrong mini. Although it's weird because the arms. Right. Okay, I'm seeing what's happening here. Yes, you're right. There is basically the same mini again. Yeah, so they basically use different arm and gun on a different legs.
So what's interesting is the lineup of the ban of a champion and then the honor guard. If you look at his Tarouges, they match the middle Victrix honor guard in the picture below, but the arm shooting matches the one on the right.
Correct.
So actually they've sort of... So it is technically a different pose, but only ever so slightly, and because they basically combine those 2 minis into one to create like a different one, which is interesting. So it isn't like... So there is actually 6 unique sculpts in there, technically, but one looks very similar, basically. I think the champion's the weakest one out of the characters.
I think the champion is probably let down by the photography here. I think when you probably see it in 3 dimensions, it'll probably...
Because it's straight on.
Yeah, it's just straight on, so it doesn't really have any of its sort of charm. But, I mean, who knows? I think the champion helmet sculpt was always a weak element, because I've just pulled up the old imagery of the...
It's very similar to the original,
It's exactly the same as the original. And that helmet sculpt was always a little bit jank back then. Intriguingly, the Ancient in the old Calgar kit had a unique helmet design as well. And obviously at the moment we're only seeing him helmetless. But it'd be interesting to see if there's an alternate helm sculpt for him also. Although I do like him with the kind of laurel wreath or whatever it is around his head and so on.
Yeah, although so what I think is slightly odd about him is he has white hair and his like comms link is also white.
Yeah. So
it sort of blends in, and I think those 2 needed to have been different colours, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I guess at that point, who knows? Maybe they were like, well, he's an old boy. Can't have him...
Well, I think it's maybe because like the trim on the arm is white, so they went for white rather than black or something. Yeah. I don't know.
Whatever the case, though...
It's a cool banner.
Yeah, the Ultramarine stuff is super sexy. So, yeah. The rumour is, Phil, that they're also going to give us a new Gilliman sculpt at some point as well, which would make sense.
Yes, although his sculpt isn't that old, but it's older than Calgar's. It's older than Calgar, yeah, exactly. And personally, I think out of all the Primarchs, he is the weaker one. Although I think when we did our big Primarch review, we put him up higher than Fulgrim, which I feel like, to be honest, I feel like we did Fulgrim a bit of a disservice, because I think he's grown on me quite a lot since the recording of that and since seeing it in person a few times.
I stand by our decisions, Phil.
But here's the thing. I still think he pales in comparison to the Forge World one, so he gets a bit of a bad rap, whereas the Forge World Gilliman one was actually always quite bad, so he was slightly better, I think, but not by much.
Yeah. But anyway, the new Ultramarine stuff is looking really cool. They've also obviously shown off what they're doing with new Drakari. The Codex is leaked, so it's been pretty well understood now what's going and what's staying. Unsurprisingly, because it's a 40k Codex in the year 2025 or in the 10th edition, stuff has to go the way of the dodo, as they say. So we've lost in Codex Drakari the beast units. So all of the beastly beasts have gone away, as have the beast masters. But they're the old resin kits, right? So, it's only inevitable.
Yeah, Games Workshop doesn't want to pay that, I don't know, EU tax or whatever it is for using resin rather than plastic, or the government's, green incentives, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So, that's a shame.
And also...
hopefully they come back in plastic at some point.
Yeah, hopefully. Grotesques have gone as well, and Grotesques were basically an old resin kit that's gone away as well, so you can't take Grotesques anymore. They've also got rid of the Court of the Archon. That's gone by all accounts. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how that's all gone. But again, it's, 40k in 10th edition. Every codex gets rid of something, right? Like it.
True. And I suspect they will get a 11th Ed glow up.
That's my suspicion as well.
Eldar.
Yeah, I think they're definitely at the point where I've got a real appreciation for the Drakari range. I think when Jez and Phil Kelly brought back Drakari, or Dark Elder as they were at the time, many moons ago, it was a really revolutionary product and something that really was a statement to us gamers at the time. But yeah, unfortunately, obviously, time is rarely kind to anything, and I think those minis are definitely starting to show their age, especially against the more modern craft foiled Eldari sculpts that are coming out now, or even just the stuff that they're showing off alongside this new release of Drakari, because you've got Lady Malice, or Lady Malice, Malice will say it that way.
I think that's what it is, but it's just got a IP friendly spelling.
Fair. But again, cool mini. Again, it's a bit soulless in the sense that it doesn't really kind of instill any of the, kind of grim, dark kind of elements that I would expect from Drakari, but it's fine, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say she's too pretty and she's too pink. Like, to me, Drakari should all have, pasty white, slightly deathly looking skin, like the mini below. She just looks like she's a human or an elf of some kind, but in a traditional sense. She looks too healthy, basically. She needs either some ugly scars or be deathly pale, I think. And that is ultimately to an extent a painting issue.
Yeah, I agree.
Than anything else.
Because I think that's the thing. I think the model has got lots of really cool elements, but I think the thing is that you put her down on the tabletop and there's nothing really especially strong about the sculpt that makes her stand out as a named character. She just sort of looks And
the pose is very sort of static, and there's a lot of chunky elements, and it's, I don't know, not a great silhouette. If I was being a bit critical, everything feels very big, really chunky hair braids, a jumbo size sword, and she's sort of slightly squatting down, which doesn't look great either in terms of her pose, if I was to be really critical.
Yeah.
But,
I think that's the thing. It's I can't remember what the old version of the sculptural version of the mini looked like, but there was definitely that thing where essentially when they did the redo of Dark Elder, and they gave us the new at the time metal and then subsequently resin sculpt for Lilith. It was a really cool characterful figure. I think the old Lady Malice or whatever it was kind of figure was a little bit kind of not particularly remarkable. It was probably a little bit sort of whatever, but the Lilith sculpt they gave us back in the day in 3rd edition and then subsequently in 5th edition was a really cool thing. And then when they did her again in, I want to say it was 8th edition, but it could have been 9th edition that they gave us back Lilith, it really, really disappointed. I know we're used to it now, but they seem to remove all of the kind of femininity from the model. They made her quite androgynous almost, and it was very sort of underwhelming, when you consider about what the idea of what, this kind of gladiatorial champion that Lilith is supposed to represent. She's supposed to be this kind of deadly, beautiful warrior queen, and she just looks like an old hag, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. And you know, Lady Malice doesn't look like an old hag, but she just looks super plain. Like, you know, I'd love to have seen some kind of maliciousness in the facial expression, or just something to make it feel a little bit more characterful. It's a very, very like underwhelming figure. Lots of nice elements.
She's also got a ridiculous like waist size. I don't know if she's cinched in a corset, but it just goes in, like her hourglass figure is sort of insane if you think about it, and it doesn't look healthy unless she's missing some ribs or something. It looks a bit mad. Meanwhile, though, the Archon miniature, which is a sort of multi-part kit, looks phenomenal. It's got a great paint job. He's got a pasty white, grotesque, alien-looking head, or a slightly more traditional elf-like one, but with a big old scar on it. And it's like, that's what they should be. They should be slightly ugly looking. He's got the helmet version, I think is incredible, which has got a tiny face on top of the helmet, which I just love the look of. That looks really amazing. He's got this weird little face on his chest that is got some kind of feeding tube attached to it. I have no idea what that is, but I want to know. That clearly is some like deep lore for Drakari. And his weapon options are cool, and he's got some weird glowing cube as well of some kind.
The soul trap, that thing's called. But
yeah, that looks very cool.
I mean, this is the thing. So these are based on the 5th edition Archon sculpts that they did in metal at the time. And they are honestly spectacular. You're absolutely right. Like the Drakari Archon mini that they are releasing alongside this is at a 10 out of 10. It's phenomenal. And I think that's the thing why as well Lady Malice kind of really doesn't sort of stack up in the same way, because she's quite plain and uninteresting compared to the stuff that's going on here. And I think for me, yeah, I just think this Archon money is top shelf.
I think they both have this weird issue, and I think that is maybe Dark Elder in general, Drakari. They're both like stretching their legs out.
Yes.
So but their legs are both in odd poses, but the Archon looks less worse. Because Malice's is like a bit more crazy extremes. And I also think it's basically, the Archon has like a sort of tabard covering his legs a little bit, so it fills that void a little bit better, whereas she's got a cape that is sort of going down behind her legs, so it makes her legs look weirder, I think. But yeah, the Archon minis, yeah, very cool. And then the Codex artwork looks pretty strong as well, I would say. It's a good contender for a top tier Codex artwork.
Yeah, I think the Kabbalite warrior that they've got on the cover is a bit of a weird mishmash of different influences, and the helmet isn't something that you normally would see, but they've kind of incorporated.
Looks very like Slanesh.
Yeah, it's Banshee-esque almost, right? And it's sort of strange, and they've got a weird gait. The legs are sort of,
again, legs stretched out. That is clearly their thing. All the minis are like that.
That's it. And then the way that they're handling their rifle is quite sort of strange. Like the whole kind of, because weirdly the way, if you actually look at how they've hinged the arm, the right arm that's
it's sort of like behind his back.
Yeah, but it's weird because like literally there's some real disproportionateness to the way, the pose of it. Basically, he's got, I mean, again, obviously, Drakari are well known for their gene craft and for their augmentation. So maybe this guy's just got one very long right bicep for some reason. I don't know why, but
maybe
it's just obviously how he likes it. I tell you what, though, again, like some of the imagery in the background, like the imagery of the witch with the kind of like chain flail style whips, like absolutely phenomenal. Like that's the thing, the details in the background are looking pretty strong here.
I was being drawn more to the raider flying in front of like the sunset. That looks cool as well.
There's definitely some cool elements to it. I just think again the central figure is one of the weaker aspects of it, but I think it's at first glance it's fine. But yeah, no, overall, yeah, I'm happy for Drakari. I'm excited about them. Again, the codex is leaked. I'll tell you what they did in the codex, Phil, from the leak, just to say that is something that I criticised Votan for. They have a specific icon and a specific presentation for how you use pain points. So when you're using a pain point, your data sheet has a specific call out that says, spend a pain point, get this. Whereas obviously...
Oh, and Votan didn't, has a similar points mechanic.
Yeah, Votan has the same a similar style of resource mechanic, but hasn't done anything to make it obvious to the user that it is part of their, that resource is in play. Whereas Drakari has specifically made it obvious, which is a thumbs up in terms of codex design anyway.
No, that makes sense.
The difference being, though, Phil, to be completely fair, the difference is that almost every Drakari data sheet has its own pain ability. So, whereas the abilities in Votan were, kind of sporadically positioned in different places. But in my opinion, that makes it even more important to make it obvious, because I think that's the thing. It's like if every data sheet has a power from pain ability, that's what you expect to find as you're going through it. You're looking for it. Whereas if not every data sheet has a what the heck was the resource called for Votan again?
Oh god, I can't
Prospect
remember.
points or something, wasn't it?
It was something like
anyway.
that, yeah. But yeah, because it's not obvious, you want to call it out so it's eye-catching, so you don't miss it, basically. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's cool. Going over to the Mortal Realms then, just to kind of close it out. Although, actually, we didn't talk about the fact that they've obviously got the new Raven Guard and they've got the new Imperial Fist stuff, but I mean, that feels like that's been around now for long enough that we don't really need to say much about it.
But they have a new book out about Yarrick in his younger years because they've obviously killed him off now, but they still want to mine that well.
Yeah. Well, rightly so, right? And again, it's all good fodder for when they bring him back, right?
Well, exactly. That's the sort of the deep irony is I suspect that probably will happen because it's like they know they were onto a good thing, so why kill him off in the first place?
Do you want
not have him in a book for an edition?
Do you want him to come back resurrected as an orc?
No,
fair. I think that would do him a disservice too.
I'll tell you what I would love, though, if there was an orc mini that had a hand puppet of Yarrick and maybe Gaz, and he's like some kind of orc street mime.
Yeah, you want a Punch and Judy show of
Punch and Judy of Old Man Yarrick and Gazgol.
Would Gazgol
would be peak comedy?
Would Gazgol be the crocodile in that particular presentation?
Well, no, he should really be Judy because Yarrick's got to be the one trying to constantly beat up Gaz.
Maybe Judy could be...
Gaz can just take it.
Judy could be like a...
Oh, no, it was the other way around because Judy was the one beating up Punch.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. And then maybe Judy could be like the administration, like the Imperium personified through some kind of like thing. And then, because that's the secret, isn't it? It's where...
No, Yarrick, you're meant to be dead. Go back home.
And then
for non-English listeners, this probably makes no sense at all.
Absolutely.
It's an old, traditional, timey-wimey hand puppet show.
Yeah, but there was a sequence, wasn't there, where the alligator was trying to take Punch's sausages and he gives him what for.
Yes, that's it.
So that's it. So, that's what that's where Gaz could come in as the alligator, or rather the crocodile, sorry. There is a difference.
Okay, so if anyone from Games Workshop is listening, it doesn't have to be a mini, but what you have to do is when you do bring back Yarrick, you need to do an animation featuring an orc doing this mime show, explaining the story behind Gaz and Yarrick, and that is how you introduce the new mini into being. And if you don't do that, I will hate you forever.
Well, there you go. That's how we'll know if they're listening, Phil, is if they rip off our Punch and Judy idea.
That is, if that was a Warhammer Plus show, I would watch it.
Absolutely. Could you imagine, actually, if they took that on tour did it around like the piers and stuff. It'd be amazing. Anyway,
that's how you get the new kids into it. You know, it's licensable IP. Everyone,
exactly. Get them with the Punch and Judy show. But yeah, moving over to the more rounds. So we're celebrating, or rather, GW seems like they forgot and then put out a White Dwarf about it. But yeah, they're celebrating 10 years of Age of Sigmar, which is cool. Again, they actually released quite an interesting battle plan, which I was hoping to play at some point, where there's like, so they had one where it was like this idea of like you're making a last stand in front of like a deadly cliff face, basically. So essentially there's like this area where you can kind of get pushed off and stuff, which is kind of fun. But all that being said, yeah, it's cool that, you know, we've gotten to 10 years of AOS. I love AOS. I know I've said it many, many times. But it's wild, really, to consider the journey that they've been on over the last 10 years. And certainly my own journey with the game. Like, I was an early adopter. I bought Age of Sigmar 1. I wanted to play it. I wanted to enjoy it. I thought it was terrible. I started playing it. I was like, what is this game? Why is it rubbish? Why does anyone care? It was just miserable at first. Like, and I didn't play it for then another 6 years after that or whatever it was. I was like, basically all of first edition, all of second edition passed me by with minimal to no interest. Gloomspite Gits piqued my interest. When the Gloomspite Gits came along, I was like, okay, this is a cool range. I could maybe see myself around to doing this. But it wasn't until obviously midway through third edition that you and I, Phil, kind of took the plunge and got involved. And I've never really looked back. I love it. It's such a good game. But yeah, man, like 10 years of AOS, it's been an interesting journey. How are you feeling about it in the general sense? Do you think GW's done right by it?
It's been an interesting evolution. As you say, I think they got a few things wrong at the very beginning. It sounds like it had a very tumultuous, rapid delivery time in terms of how long they're actually given to write the rules. I actually think doing a 4-page rule set is super admirable, and I think for what they did, it was very good based on that. I think they had probably two main problems as an outside observer. Although I did buy the original book, I did start collecting some Seraphon, but never really did anything with it and didn't play any games. But I think two main issues were there were no points for units.
Oh god, yeah.
And oh, do you know what? I've forgotten what the other one was. It'll come to me. But I think that was the main one. Oh, yeah, that was it. And it was the one. Well, this is in two halves. It's one that you were having the negative association with ending the old world and porting along some of those units. And the other problem, which is part of this, is the sort of what was called the beer and pretzels mechanics with those old units from, like, if you're a dwarf player and you had the longest beard out of both of your opponents, you could do an ability. There was some like really random sort of rules that were meant to be fun mechanics, and I think they probably tainted the initial impression of the game. But I sort of feel like, so, you know, if you were playing more of the AOS style armies that then came out, and probably after the first General's Handbook, and you weren't playing with some of those more legacy rules, then it probably started to evolve into a much more interesting game, I would assume. And obviously the points was a big factor in that as well.
Yeah, they had a big issue as well early doors with the way that the games were structured. So essentially, they would basically, to try and balance the fact that there were no points, the person who had less stuff ended up in a situation where they basically introduced the early concept of like the underdog, and you basically had like an instant win condition. So it was like a weird thing where it's like, oh, stand over there, where you win. And it was like, what is this? It was just mad. And, you know, the way the game was back then, it was just a little bit nutty. But, you know, I think Age of Sigmar to me represents a really interesting experience within GW as a whole, because as much as obviously as 40k players, we can look at like 8th and 9th edition 40k and kind of speak to the positive influence of their new focus on community engagement and their new kind of 360 process of, you know, listening, iterating and improving through user feedback. Age of Sigmar really was the kind of the blueprint. It was the thing that kind of changed everything, really, because obviously what Games Workshop saw was that they released a product that wasn't doing very well at the start. Like Age of Sigmar wasn't really setting the world on fire. And then as they started to engage with the community, as they started to incorporate things from the community into their game, they started to be rewarded for that. And as time has gone on, Age of Sigmar has gone on to become a more successful product. Obviously, it's nowhere close to 40k yet, but it is better. And I think that kind of feedback loop has and still has informed GW's approach to their, game design in the modern sense, I feel. And I think as well, just last point, I think the team that they've put in on AOS and the kind of work they do and the sort of way that they're approaching game design has also now started to have an influence on other game systems also, because you can start to feel it, a kind of cultural shift within GW where games creation is taken a lot more seriously than maybe it had been for the last few years. Those are my
I can see that being the case for sure. Yeah, it's definitely come a long way. It's definitely a lot more interesting. I always felt like, especially in third edition and early fourth, they were always like a premium product, but always slightly better priced than 40k, for example. Like the General's Handbook was always a much better quality than the 40k chapter approved books that they were doing before they became a deck of cards. There's a few things lately that make me think that is starting to dip as a trend. For example, with my Nighthaunt, and this is for all of the books, well, not even the books, the cards. There's two versions. There's the Gamer Edition, which is a A5 small size booklet, which is all the same as the actual battle tome, but in a miniature form, plus a deck of cards. Those deck of cards have everything you possibly need to play your army. Includes the spearhead cards, includes all your data sheet cards, but it also includes rules for your army, detachments, and they're not called detachments. I'm doing 40k terms for listeners, and like spells and stuff like that. Whereas the standalone deck of cards does not include, I believe it's the army and detachment rules. It just includes the units in them. And it's like, come on, guys. Like, it's literally like 2 extra cards to give someone a complete experience. And that just feels like wildly disappointing for something that is historically always been a really premium product that always felt like it got it right 100% of the time in terms of, how nice the products were. So those little things really annoyed me. And personally, I am slightly jaded because with the Scourge of Ghyran, I was really getting into my jam with Nighthaunt in terms of building and painting some more bits for it. I was really enjoying the new units. And then the new battle tome comes along and sort of completely mothballs the entire idea of that because of how they've played it. Now, however, I do need to... So the play style has changed fundamentally, and I do actually need to just play some games to rip that Band-Aid off and see if it's as bad as I'm worrying it is. And actually, it might not be. And it might be perfectly fine. I suspect that's not quite the case, but that's something I just need to, get over, basically. And I have bought the Hellsmiths of Hashot book, army box, because that could be potentially my new jam instead.
Just to say though, as well, that is a practice that they inherited from Warhammer 40,000, the card system you're referring to. Warhammer 40,000 has the same problem,
which is weird. Yeah, because I personally wanted to get the army book and the standard deck of cards. They are basically the same price as the Gamer Edition, but the Gamer Edition has all the cards that I could possibly need. So I was like, I will just go for that. I'm not fussed. I'm not mega fussed about having a jumbo hardback book because most of the time you don't even need it. Like, it's nice in a way, it's like most people probably prefer to play via the app or the cards. So the book is a bit almost redundant from a rules point of view, but it's nice to have to read and look at, and the lore and the artwork and stuff like that. So yeah, that one's a bit odd. So they could improve things slightly there, I think.
Yeah, it's the maddest thing, because the way they do it is they basically, typically in 40k, it's the same, where they'll go buy the cards and you'll get the combat patrol cards, and you'll get the data sheet cards, and you'll get the one army rule card, which is like the generic army rule. So in the case of Space Marines, Oath of Moment, right? And that's it. That's all you get. And then that is the entirety of it. The one that's really egregious at the moment is Codex Imperial Knights cards. Have you seen them?
No, what are they missing?
Well, it's not that they're missing anything. It's the fact that literally it's 16 quid. Hazard a guess how many cards you're getting for 16 quid.
Like, not even 8.
It's more than 8, to be fair. But not by much. It's 13 cards. 13 cards. Jeez. One army rule card and 12 datasheet cards for 16 quid. It's like, come on, guys. The margin there is just insane, right?
I know. Well, I sort of feel like that's also a similar thing with the dice. Like, the number of dice you now get is a lot lower, but I suspect the price is pretty much the same. Another thing going back to the AOS cards is the classic style. The standalone cards are much bigger and nicer designed, and they're in like a portrait mode, whereas the gamer edition are much smaller and thinner and are in landscape mode and require more often than not to use the front and back of those cards because they're so much smaller. The standard ones, I think, actually are much more practical.
So you are wrong, and it's reasonable that you are wrong, because you're talking about the cards as they were at launch. So you're talking about the index cards for the initial...
The index cards, yeah.
Yeah, but if you buy any standard card, so if I went and bought Flesh Eater Corpse cards, they're in the same design. Yeah, they're the same design. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise.
Yeah.
Well, the index cards were great. I appreciate they took up a bit more space, but actually not having to look on the other side is so much better.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just the way they did it. But again, I actually quite like the littler cards, though, because I think it's a little bit easier to use in
Here's the thing. I think if you were playing on a 6x4 table with your game mat that's a lot smaller, I suspect the thinner landscape design probably fits more in that space that you're not using a lot easier than the bigger cards, which take up a fair bit more space.
Yeah. It's nice, because actually one of the things I like to do for my opponents sometimes is I just put the cards next to the units, just so, because they're small enough that you can just be
and you can look at them.
Yeah, which quite helps.
Touch them if you must.
Exactly. Make sure I'm not cheating. Lord knows I love to cheat. But yeah, so that's cool. But so 10 years of AOS, well done them. They've definitely, at least for now, made a fan of myself. I mean, I'm starting to learn more about the setting, although nowhere close to my kind of knowledge of 40k. But yeah, man, I'm really enjoying it, and I encourage everyone to give it a try. I think AOS is a lot of fun.
No, that's true. I'm surprised they haven't done a 10 years of AOS mini.
Did they not? No, they didn't, did they? They kind of...
No, they've sort of talked about it all year long in terms of it's 10 years of AOS, everyone, but they haven't done any mini to celebrate it. They've just done their usual store anniversary and the Warhammer Day ones.
Well, you're getting Hellsmiths of Hushut, which are looking great, by the way. I think Hellsmiths have... I've heard a lot of people take an interest in Chaos Dwarves. Like, I think,
Well, even out of our group, so I wanted to get in. Richard definitely expressed an interest, but I think I don't know if he did in the end. He said he was going to buy it to cheer himself up for missing out on a limited edition book.
Yeah.
I think Big Phil was potentially interested. And I think even was it Garfield maybe expressed an interest, but he sort of expressed an interest in all the armies.
He loves all things. He's got too much love to give.
He's the shiny toy collector. Yes.
But mate,
and then I think Joe's probably going to get in on it as well at some point.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I think this is it, man. Like, I just think they're super cool, and I think, you know, the rules look really interesting. We talked about it a bit when we were reviewing Codex Votan, but I think they're weird kind of demon PowerPoints where they go around the board and corrupt the landscape is a really interesting mechanic in the way that they've kind of done it here. I like how they've managed the resource mechanic and how they've made it that you basically, you know, reset your demon points every turn and then redistribute. I think that's a really nice way of...
Yeah, that's cool. So they put out 4 articles doing like called roundtable discussions with like the rules writers, the designers of the miniatures, the lore and painters, and that's been really interesting to sort of understand where they've been coming from. So they've sort of explained why, for example, the Bull Taurus wasn't a monstrous beast and instead is a mechanical beast, because they said to make it like a living creature that they're taming implies that that creature is almost better than them, whereas instead the ability to create something and animate rock or metal, whatever it might be, is to show their mastery of their skills. So I sort of got their lore justification behind it, although personally I still think a living one would have been a cool thing, because it didn't even need to be a living creature. It could have been a living manifestation that they themselves have kind of created, rather than something that you've tamed from like a wild horse. So I don't necessarily agree with their take, but it is what it is.
Oh yeah.
And I'm looking forward to getting the book, mostly just to read some of the lore as well. And some of the minis I think look really great, like the Bull Centaurs I think are phenomenal. The artillery pieces I still think look dumb. And
I agree.
I will probably convert them up in some way to probably make them look more like a locomotive, like the 412 ones is what I'm aesthetically leaning towards more. But yeah, and yeah, paint wise and color wise, I've still not decided what I would do for them.
Yeah,
but the fact that it's a spearhead as well means we could probably finally play some spearhead.
Mate, honestly, it's well worth playing. It's such a good system that they've created there. Intriguingly, a chap by the name of Sam Pearson Game Design, there it was. He just put out a really interesting video. So as I understand it from watching his video, he's moved to the other side of the world. I can't remember where it is exactly. Somewhere in Asia he's moved to. So he left Games Workshop. Is now working on his own games, but he basically worked on like Warcry and more specifically in this instance Spearhead, and he put out a really interesting video the other week talking about the design philosophy around Spearhead. I loved it. I thought it was really great to see. I mean, obviously early days for him when it comes to kind of video creation, but you can tell that guy's got a lot of knowledge and a lot of real passion for it, and it was great to see. And I love those kind of insights from real experts talking about their craft, as it were, and I felt like he did a good job of it. So that's a plug for Sam Pearson Game Design on the YouTubes. Go check him out. He seems like he's doing some fun stuff worth having a look at, especially if you're interested in like game design, tabletop wargaming, etc. But that was really interesting. I think Spearhead genuinely is it's a super fun game, and I'm hopeful that we'll get more of an excuse to play it more often. As we're getting together at your house when you're not serving His Majesty or whatever it is you're doing at the moment. I was going to say Her Majesty, but still haven't gotten over that. I keep forgetting that we have a king these days. But yes, maybe when I come and visit next time, we'll get some Spearhead games in alongside a recording session. That'd be a worthwhile use of our time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Although again,
that'd be good.
Well, we will have talked about this. We will have talked about this in the intro, but we'll talk about it again now as we're getting to the end of this, because basically, Phil's dealing with his jury duty fun. I'm basically on holiday next week. So essentially, we're going to miss the next episode. So episode 220 will come at some point week after next, basically. As we talked about when we started going back to a kind of weekly format, me and Phil are going to get together and record on Wednesdays, assuming we can get together and record on Wednesdays. But on the next Wednesday, we can't because Phil's doing things and I'm not here. So that's how that's going to go, basically. But we'll be back with episode 220. Crikey, what would that week be? So next week is week commencing. Oh no, clicking the wrong thing. Next week is Monday, the week commencing Monday the 22nd. So yeah, week commencing Monday the 29th. So either Friday the 3rd or Saturday the 4th of October, we'll be putting out episode 220. But we'll be missing next week, basically. Isn't that right, Phil?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
There you go. There we go. Is there anything else we need to talk about in the wondrous world of Warhamsters before we say goodbye and end episode 200 and what is it now? 219, I guess. Is it 19? Oh, I forget myself now. I just said episode 220 with such self-assured status.
Yes, there's one easy way to check.
Well, I already have. This is definitely episode 219.
It is. You are correct.
There we go.
No, I think one thing that we were meaning to talk on, because we were talking about all things Warhammer, I briefly wanted to get your ideas on Blood Bowl 3rd edition.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, that's a thing worthy of talking about. There we go. I have mixed emotions about it, but most of that is coloured by the recent muck-up that was the Horus Heresy. I felt like Heresy was a real letdown with the way that they approached it, and because I felt like that was quite a letdown, I'm concerned that they're going to do something equally stupid with Blood Bowl. But they're saying the stuff they said at the start of the Heresy promo, which is it's just iterative. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You're still going to be able to use all your stuff. So, you know, I remain optimistic, and I love Blood Bowl. I'm about to start Blood Bowl League. I think we're now starting it in the new year with the announcement of this new edition. But yeah, we're going to start a Blood Bowl League super soon, which I'm really excited for. And maybe, just maybe, I'll get my hands on one of these new teams and try giving them a run. Because we've got now, what is it, the Tomb Kings and the humans.
Bretonians, yeah. Bretonians, which is odd because I got the impression the last human team they did, which was Imperial Nobles, was meant to be a very Bretonian-esque sort of team.
I guess they're now the Empire, right?
I mean, I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, the Nobles probably had more of a Empire aesthetic to them.
Yeah, they probably did. I can't remember for sure, but I got the impression they were closely similar to the Bretonian sort of unofficial team that existed before, but I could be wrong in that assertion.
Yeah.
But it's cool that they've done them, and that sort of ties in with the old world game. Yeah, I've been a bit reticent about it because it's like a new edition for the sake of new edition.
Yeah,
I don't want things doing that. However, I was looking at a YouTube video that someone was talking about it, and one of the comments was from a Blood Bowl player, and they were very keen on it because they were saying, since the last edition, there's been so many FAQs and erratas that for new players, there's probably quite a lot to sift through to work out those changes. So if the changes are mostly minimal and it's just tidying up a rule set, then they were like, this is probably quite good. And they mentioned a few things like the wildly inaccurate pass, which apparently was a terrible addition, I believe, in the last current version of the game. So if they make a few tweaks here and there, potentially it's all good, right? And potentially. It's one of those things where I never bought the last edition, and probably quite good that I didn't. I did get Dungeon Bowl.
Dungeon Bowl's good, fun game.
And in theory, I could just still play that as a standalone game, I guess, but it's using the current rule set. So, stuff like that sort of bothers me. I did last year collect the Chaos Dwarves, and I bought a pack of the cards. I will be trying to, assuming I didn't open them, returning the cards to Games Workshop because they are worthless now. So I need to dig them out and see if I didn't stupidly, excitedly open them up just to flick through the cards for no reason before I'd even built the team, which was, my mistake for being excited about that sort of thing.
Well, that's it. That's the kind of silly nonsense you've been, folly of in the past. But no, on the whole, I support the concept of Blood Bowl. I think it's pretty cool. Looking back and actually looking at the Bretonnian and Tomb King teams, I'm not particularly enamored with either of those ranges, so I'll probably stick with something else in terms of the team. But yeah, I'll probably pick up the rule book or go from it from that perspective. But yeah, man, I mean, Blood Bowl's a great game, definitely worthy of people's time. It's just going to come down to what they do. But as you say, if they do what I hoped they would have done with 40k, or not 40k, sorry, Horus Heresy, and just taken all the FAQs and erratas and fixed some of the problems and smushed it into a book and didn't invalidate everything that had come before it, I would have been dead in favour of Horus Heresy. But as it is, I think, Horus Heresy is a tragedy, really. I think, to me, Horus Heresy is now a dead system. Like, I just don't see any point to it whatsoever right now.
But weirdly, lots of people are saying good things about it. And actually, so there's a new, it's not Arcane Journals, it's the Heresy equivalent of an Arcane Journal. But there's one specifically around Saturnine and the lore around it. And I'm almost tempted to just pick it up to read the lore about Saturnine, because we poo-pooed it so much for being a sort of terrible retcon. It would be generally interesting to read what it's about and how well or how badly they've sort of introduced it properly into the setting. And the concept of these mini black campaign books, I think is very cool. They seem to be going really well for the old world. But again, it's that thing of how long will they keep them up versus resetting the entire game state with a new edition and invalidating all of that stuff. And it invariably does happen, but I just think every 3 or 4 years is just too soon. Whereas if it was every 10 years, let's say, it becomes a bit more of a thing that you can live with, because it just takes you so long to build and paint stuff. At least to a half decent standard, right?
No, I totally agree with you, mate. I totally agree. But yeah, we'll see what comes to pass when it comes to that side of things. But I think, ultimately, again, if people are enjoying Heresy, again, good for them. It's just, I just feel like it's just been one of those systems where I'm happy to let it pass me by now. I'm okay. It's not for me anymore. Move on. Cool, man. Well, there we go. Episode 218 in the bag. Cheers very much as always, pal. Look forward to catching up with you sporadically throughout the week, and then obviously recording again in a couple of weeks' time. Any closing statements, or happy to stay?
It's episode 219, not 218.
Sorry, episode 219.
Forgive you.
Thank you
for your mistakes, Dan. Back to work.
Absolutely. I apologise to everybody, but that was episode 219, done and dusted. Cheers all. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye-bye.